enlightenment journey.
Now, Rumi actually wrote in Farsi.
This is written in Farsi. Rumi wrote in Farsi. There's always this argument: was Rumi, Turkish or Persian? Or I think that argument is kind of funny because it doesn't really matter. Rumi, when he died, in his funeral, there was folks from the Christian community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, and that's one area that Rumi is clear that he was speaking to all people. He wrote in Persian, but he lived in several places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then two of the other books he has, these are his what they call Divan-e-Shams. These are also in Persian they refer to these as ghazals, which they're shorter poems. Normally, 9 or so lines of rhyme couplets with a kind of a one couplet that finishes and tries to summarize the entire poem. And for Persian poets, it's always customary to use their own name at that summary. But what Rumi does, he uses Shams's name as opposed to his own in the line that he finishes. So
he always gives a reference to his teacher.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think in all Rumi's work, the whole idea of humility is very important. Let me read a poem on that. This speaks not to just his view of Shams, but I think in general, he's talking to us about what happens when we think we have, been close to God. Because this whole idea of that gets him in trouble, the Sufis and the fundamentalist religions, the mystics and the fundamental views of religion, is that maybe the mystics are not respecting God enough, right? And Rumi, because he talks about this love in his poetry all throughout, and the wine he drinks that brings him closer and closer, and it's like, well, that's all wrong stuff. You don't do that, right? It's like, no, you can achieve that presence being with grace, but yet have humility. So here's a poem. Let me read that for you. The king had a noble falcon who wandered away one day and into the tent of an old woman who was making dumpling stew for her children. "Who's been taking care of you?" she asked, quickly tying the falcon's foot. She clipped his wings and cut his fierce talons and fed him straw. "Someone who doesn't know how to treat a falcon," she answered herself. "But your mother knows." "Friend, this kind of talk is a prison. Don't listen." The king spent all day looking for his falcon and came at sunset to the tent and saw his fine raptor standing on a shelf in the smoky steam of the old woman's cooking. "You left me for this?" The falcon rubbed his wings against the king's hand, feeling wordlessly what was almost lost. The falcon is like one who, through grace, gets to sit close to the king, and so thinks he's on the same level as the king. Then he turns his head for a moment as he's in the old woman's tent. Don't feel special in the king's presence. Be mannerly and thankful and very humble. A falcon is an old image of that part of you that belongs to the king. Once there was a blind falcon who fell in with owls in wilderness. They thought he wanted to take over the ruin they were living in. They tore his feathers. "Wait, I have no interest in this place. My home is the forearm of the king." The owls thought he was some kind of bragging trick to distract them. "No, I don't claim to be the king. I'm a ragged blind falcon. All I can do is listen for the king's drum and fly to the sound when I hear it. I'm not the king's species or genus, but I have taken in some of the king's light, the way air is swept up in the fire. The way water becomes plants, my ego has died into the king's being. I roll in the dust at the feet of his horse. Don't let this blind falcon form fool you. I am really a delicious dessert that you should taste now, you owls, before I hear the drum again, because then I'll be gone.
So isn't our life so apropos to that?
I think with one of the reasons that Rumi has picked up more audience now is that longing for us to find the inner divine.
Yes.
And when we come in touch with it, sometimes we feel like that we are now in the presence of that, and our ego gets in the way, like, oh, I've been there, I'm so special, look at me. Okay. And you turn your head and you're in the old woman's tent. Getting your wings clipped.
And could be soup.
And could be soup. So Rumi finds divine in almost everything, even in the soup. He takes the mundane and he makes it into this beautiful, sublime, because he sees that divine in everything. He keeps things simple, yet he keeps himself humble. He keeps himself looking inside. One of the poems I like from him, it says, I have lived on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reason. Knocking on a door, it opens. I've been knocking from the inside. I mean, that is really what Rumi is about.
So let's kind of do a little summary here, because we're going to be just tying this segment up. We're actually going to be doing 2 more pieces to this. So this is about Rumi, who is Rumi, and how does Rumi relate to the world from the past. Our next 2 segments will be the present and the future of Rumi in our lives. But let's just kind of tie him up in a nice little bow right here, which I know is very hard to do. But since it's his birthday, we can do that. This music in the back is just so mystical. It's just like it's divine, bringing the divine within the moment. As you read, I can hear the music intertwining with the words, and it sort of brings it out into the audience. I believe that's what it's doing, that it's integrating this piece of how important this work really is, because we get so locked up into what we're hearing right now, and really it's who we are, who we've always been.
So let me finish with this short poem from him. It's about going where this whole world changes into a totally different feel, different place.
Right. It's a perfect ending.
Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other don't make any sense.